welcome back to Bebop Review. My name's Andy Shaw. I just want to talk about this video today by the Institute for Creative Music. This guy's called Chris Teal, and he's put these videos on. There's a lot of videos like this. They haven't had, this one's had the most views, 1,242 views. But a lot of the others haven't had very many views at all, which means that I don't think he's very popular among people. They don't. But it's actually quite interesting what he says. He's basically, he talks about learning music by ear, and he demonstrates. A lot of stuff he does is very simple. He does the opening phrase to Billy's Bounce on Charlie Parker's solo, which most of you watching this video should be able to play pretty much straight away after listening to it. And then he's like showing you how to play it. But then he talks about the relationship of that phrase to the beat, which I think is quite interesting. But the main thing about his way of teaching is that you learn music by ear, and that's it. That seems to be it. You're just learning how the jazz vocabulary by ear. Now, I've always said that you've really got to listen to bebop to understand it. That's because you have to learn the language of bebop, and to learn the language of bebop, you've really got to listen to a lot of the great players of the 1940s. Then you will get the original music as it was. You know, if you listen to people like Charlie Parker, Dizzy Gillespie, Bud Powell, Clifford Brown, Sonny Stitt, all those people, you will get into the 1940s language of bebop. If you listen to more modern players, you will hear a modern version of the bebop, which isn't really the genuine version. So I agree with listening to music by ear, and in a way I agree with him when he's saying you've got to play by ear. That is, you really want to be memorising the tunes, because if you go to a gig, you don't want to be getting music out. You want to actually play the tunes by memory, don't you? And if you learn it by memory, that's just a better thing in it when you go to a gig. Although I must admit, if I play a gig and it's not jazz, it's like soul music and that, I play by music because I actually don't want to learn that music by memory. So again, it's a different way of looking at music. You know what I mean? If you love some kind of music, then you want to memorise it and play that kind of music you really love. You know, but if you play music you don't love, I think you should play it by reading music, because otherwise you'll get that music in your head. It'll interfere with the bop stuff, I think, personally, if you understand what I'm talking about. Anyway, getting back to this, he's saying that you can learn the whole vocabulary of jazz, of bebop, by ear, and I actually disagree with that. I just don't think it's possible. I think what you can do is you can be a mimic. You can probably be somebody who can go out and play music by playing all these things, but you'll never really understand it. You'll never be a better player. It's kind of like, I'll try and give you a few examples of what how I'm thinking this out. If any of you have done classical music or concert music, and you've done Baroque Bach chorales by Bach, you know, if you've ever done any Bach chorales, one of the main things you can't do in a Bach chorale is to use parallel fifths. Now, if you're playing that music by ear and listening to it, it's very difficult to hear those parallel fifths. It just sounds all right, you know what I mean? But parallel fifths are bad in Bach chorales, or what we call in Britain, part writing. I think the Americans call that voice leading. We call it part writing in Britain. It's very difficult to actually hear those parallel fifths because the music's quite complicated. The Bach chorale can be quite complicated sounds, and it all sounds all right. But when you look into the music, you can actually see those parallel fifths. At least I'm talking about the notation. You can see those parallel fifths and correct the music. Now, I know when we talk about Charlie Parker, we talk about a single line melody line, right? But the thing is, it's pretty much the same thing. How can I explain this? Like, if you're driving a car, right, you can probably drive that car a lot better if you know something about how engines work. Do you know what I mean? Because you get a lot of these kids who buy these fast hatchbacks, and you see them starting the engine up and revving it from cold, you know, before oil's had time to lubricate round everywhere and stuff, you know.
I start the car. Maybe. anticlimactic.
They don't really understand how a car works, and if they did, they'd let the engine warm up, you know, get it warmed up first before they start thrashing it, you know. Anyway, I know it's difficult for me to get this across to you, but what I'm saying in jazz, in bebop, is that this is the same thing. You can learn bebop by ear, you can start listening to it and learn all these phrases by ear, but you won't really understand what's happening in the music. You'll just get to be somebody who kind of like copies the phrase. If you understand how the phrases move, you can be a lot more creative, I think, and see what's happening better and understand it more. So I disagree, even though I think these videos are actually quite good in that he's putting stuff across and talking about it, and, you know, from an ear point of view, it's quite interesting. It's not an exclusive thing you should be doing. You should be doing what he's saying, this kind of thing about picking music up by ear, and also studying the music. And if you're a beginner, somebody who's not so hot on your instrument, then he's saying you shouldn't touch the Charlie Parker Omnibook. You should go straight into learning by ear, you know. But I'm telling you from my experience, it's very difficult when you're a very beginner to understand what Charlie Parker's doing, and very difficult to transcribe what he's doing. I remember one of the first solos that I tried to transcribe with Charlie Parker was Laura, you know, because I thought, oh, this is nice and it's simple. But he did this line, and I know now that this line is M5B, and he played M5B really quick, and I just simply couldn't get it off the record. It took ages and ages. But once I'd started studying music and that, I can hear those things now, and I know what they are, basically, because I've heard them so many times. But that's the main thing, is that when you study music, you can pick these things up better. And the Charlie Parker Omnibook can help you. You can play through the solos, which is obviously a lot easier than transcribing them. And you can see all these little things, M5B and that. Now, obviously you're not going to know what these things are unless you actually go back to the Thomas Owen dissertation where all these lines come from, and that is, you can get that off my Facebook page for free if you want, and then study them yourself. But I would definitely say you should study music. You should study it, not just learn by ear. And to like get across this argument that I'm trying to put across, we'll just have a look at another video, okay? So to get this across a bit better, what I'll do is I'll just look at this video by Mark of Music Education for All. Mark's a Seattle musician who went to Berklee College of Music, and he's put all these videos. You want to have a look at this site, actually, Music Education for All. Some really good videos on there, especially his rhythm reading videos. I think they're very good. But he's put all these videos on about Charlie Parker, and he's put short lines, and they're all quite interesting. There's loads of them are really interesting to look at. But he looks at them in standard melodic analysis, because I don't think he's actually read Thomas Owen's dissertation on Charlie Parker, so he doesn't use the motives, you know, which I've always talked about in my video. Anyway, we're going to look at this line that Mark's done. He hasn't put a key signature in like all Americans seem to do. They don't put key signatures in. So we're going to put a key signature and have a look at it, and I'll just talk about it. Okay, so we'll have a look at this video. Okay, so this is the line that Mark put on from Music Education for All. He didn't tell you where it came from, but it comes from the tune Segment. It's in the Charlie Parker Omnibook on page 99, line 24. It's in concert pitch. It is in it is in B flat minor in concert pitch, which would have a key signature of D flat major. But here we're in alto sax key, so we're in G minor, which is the same key signature as B flat major, isn't it? And if you look, we can see F sharps here and here, so we're in G harmonic minor, aren't we? So the only real note that's out of key is that flat 5 there. Right, now if you have a look at the tune Segments, in the melody line for Segment, which I'll just also mention that Segment is also exactly the same tune as Diverse. They're both the same tune. For some reason, they did 2 takes, but they called them different names, Segment and Diverse, but really it's the same tune. But in both those tunes, Segment and Diverse, which you can see in the Charlie Parker Omnibook, This note here, this flat 5, is part of the melody. It's actually in the melody. This chord will be correct. We're in a minor key, so that flat 9 is emphasising that E flat there, isn't it, obviously. So I think that even though Mark actually points to that and says, look at that flat 5, whoa, Charlie Parker's played a flat 5, it might not quite sound as out as you think, because if this is all in G minor and this chord is D7 flat 9 and that note is in the melody, then the flat 9 might be played in the bass, which produces a perfect fourth, not a flat 5 or tritone, so it won't sound, you know, out as much, you know what I mean? If there's a flat 9 being played in bass, then you get an interval of a perfect fourth, you know, which sounds interesting, because you've definitely got this flat 5 against the D7, but it's not going to be against a bass note, you know, sounding really out, you know. But Charlie Parker might be playing it really out, I don't know. He might be playing it really out in the melody as well, you know. But you've got to consider that there could be a flat... Parker could have put a flat 9 in the bass, which would produce a perfect fourth, which would make this sound a lot nicer as it runs along, I suppose. When I was looking at it, I had a bit of trouble trying to find the voice leading. You pause the video and see if you can see the voice leading. It's not as easy as it looks. Have you paused the video? Well, I was looking down here, and I was looking at these bits here, thinking, where's the bloody voice leading gone? Anyway, I'll show you where it is. I'll tell you how I found the voice leading line. I looked to see obvious signs of, you know, a voice leading. Now, if you look there, that note there and that note there spell out a M5, don't they? Do you know what I mean? This is half a tone above and half a tone below. So this note here is definitely part of the voice leading line, this G. So this is where it finishes. He's finishing on the G. Right, so when we go back, we need to see if there's an F sharp or an F. Yes, there's an F sharp there. So that note is actually, even though it's only an approach note to that G, because it's part of M5, it's actually part of the voice leading line. And if you look how it's moving, this music, you're going from this D to A flat to F sharp. This is a converging figure. So it's still kind of like pointing it out. So we need to go back further. Is the E? Yes. This is part of the voice leading because, look, we've got M1 here taking you up to it. You know what I said about M1? M1 is about bringing the voice leading up, right? So we're right down here, and M1's taking you back up. So this is where we are. So now if we go back, we should see a D, and there's a D there. So the voice leading is going D, E, F sharp, G. It's quite clever, that. It's quite clever how Parker uses this interval, which I'm going to talk about in a second, to take you to that F sharp, and then he's got M5 taking you to that G. It's just fantastic. Parker, I tell you, Charlie Parker is the king. Right, let's have a look at this bit here then. Here we've got a G minor arpeggio. Right, it's played in second inversion, isn't it? You know what I mean? GBD, yeah. So from there, D, G, B, D. So it's second inversion. Then we're going straight into a G minor tetrachord. Now this is something that Parker does a lot. This is kind of like standard stuff from Parker. Yeah, if you look at just look at this bit I've just talked about here. Notice how Parker drops down there instead of making it all in thirds. He could have put that there as an E, couldn't he? He could have had E flat there, so it'd be E, G, B flat, D, which would be an E major 7. Right, which you wouldn't really, I don't know, you wouldn't really want to play E major 7 arpeggio there. But sometimes Parker would do something like that. It depends on what's happening. You know, we're in a minor key here, so that's probably the reason why he's dropped down there. He didn't want to be playing E flat major 7, you know, arpeggio there, I suppose. You know what I mean? I'm probably going over the top here, but you know, usually you see that line going down to E and then this coming in, you know, this standard stuff with a tetrachord in the middle. Then just below that there'd be a note there, you know, or there. I don't know, but that's quite a big distance, and I think it's because we're in a minor key. Something I'll have to look at and see. Does he do that regular in a minor key? Because I haven't actually seen him do it regular in a major key, so I thought I'd just mention that. And then here we've got M1 standard stuff. This would sometimes go into a changing tone, taking it to D, but we're going into this flat 5 here, which is quite interesting. So the voice lead, he's took you up to the voice leading, and the voice leading is going to go to this F through this M5, right? It's just so clever, this. But he's made an interval there of a minor fifth, right? Or a diminished fifth, if you want to call it by its proper name. No, it's certainly not a minor fifth, diminished fifth, isn't it? So we've got a diminished fifth here, right, this interval. But if that E flat, that flat 9 is in the bass, you're getting a perfect fourth in the harmony. So the interval, the leap, is a diminished fifth, but the interval, the harmonic interval, may be a perfect fourth, which is, I just think it's really clever, that kind of stuff. And then we're taking you into this changing tone here, it's M5, with the voice leans moving from this E to F sharp to G. But then look what happens. This G is now taking you up a perfect fifth. So you've leaped there a diminished fifth, and now we're going a perfect fifth. And then something, actually I've made a mistake here, I can just see, because I know what Parker does here. So this is definitely a mistake from my point of view. In a G minor key, Parker loves to finish on the 6th of this chord. And the 6th of this chord is E natural, not E flat. So I'm just going to have a look to see if I've made a mistake, and I bet I have. And I think that should be... I'm just looking in the Charlie Parker Omni book. Yes, I have made a mistake. Charlie Parker likes to finish on the 6th of this chord, which would be E natural. So there's two actual chromatic notes in. There's that flat 5 and there's E natural here. Now, did you see that I actually made a mistake there, and all the way I went through that video, I never noticed it. But when I saw the theory, I knew the theory in my head that Parker likes to finish on the 6th of the minor key, in a minor key on the 6th chord, on the chord 1. He likes to finish on the 6th, which would be E natural. I automatically assumed I'd made a mistake there, which I had done, and I reasoned it out, and that's what I really want to say. I'm really glad I made that mistake, actually, because this is what I'm saying. If you understand Parker, like I was saying earlier about understanding how a car works, if you understand how a car works, you hear a noise and you're thinking, oh, I think I know what that is. It's like fan belt slipping, or, you know, something's doing this and that, and you know how the engine works. You seem to be able to solve the problem, and it's the same with this. I know you can learn things by ear, right? Like you can just learn to drive a car without actually understanding the mechanics of it. But if you just learn this by ear, you don't quite understand what's happening as much, you know what I mean? And because I'm actually working this out and looking at it from a theoretical point of view, I'm also understanding that I'm making mistakes here, and I made a mistake there. That is E natural. So let's correct it and put it right, okay? Okay, so I've just corrected it now, so we've got this E natural in, which is how it is in the Charlie Parker Omni book, which actually makes more sense to me as well, because like I said, that's the 6th note now of this G minor chord. So this is actually G minor 6, really. You could write G minor 6 in there. So that's it. So basically, that's all I want to say about this video, right? That you can play things by ear, but you can learn a lot more by studying it in music form as well. And if you like playing through transcribed solos, you can kind of like be stopping and looking what Parker's doing, do you know what I mean? So there's advantages and disadvantages, you know. But you really, I think with any kind of modern jazz, I really think you need to know about the theory. It's not like the old New Orleans style I was talking about in the Critics War videos. They believe that jazz should only be played by ear, and there shouldn't be any theory whatsoever. It's all done by ear. But the modern jazz era is very similar, like I said, to romantic era music in concert music, and you know, with lots of elaborations and things. And you really need to understand music to study it and see what's happening. And a lot of it is really virtuoso stuff as well, so that's another reason why you should be studying music and seeing exactly what happens, so you can see what kind of patterns and things to practice. Okay, so that's it. So I hope you've learnt something from that. I apologise I haven't put any videos on for a bit, but been very busy, and hopefully within next week or two I should have finished all this work off, so I should be able to get back to making some videos for you. Okay, so I'll see you soon. Bye.